In Dungeons and Dragons, the creatures come in many different shapes and sizes, and for that, the guys at Wizards of the Coast have categorized them as different types. So we're going to talk about the types of creatures in D&D. Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner, and welcome back to the Daily D20, your daily dose of all things tabletop role-playing games, helping you build your world and master your game. Today we're talking about the different types of creatures in Dungeons and Dragons, but before we get into the many types, we gotta know why these types exist. As you go learning about the different abilities and spells and things in Dungeons and Dragons, you'll start to notice that some of them only affect a certain type of creature. These kind of spells adds another layer of mechanics to the game where you need to know what type of creature you're fighting against in combat situations, so you can use those spells most effectively against them. One of these examples is the ability Turn Undead, used by clerics, only affects creatures that are labeled undead. So for this reason, there are different types of creatures that we're going to go over and explain the differences of them, so you know what you're looking at when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. First up on the list are Aberrations. These are about as alien as you can get for creatures in Dungeons and Dragons. They are not natural, they don't look natural, they seem just kind of weird. They don't even follow the laws of physics sometimes, and they are usually very powerful with magic or some sort of ability coming from their mental powers. Oftentimes aberrations are of an evil alignment, but there is chance they could have some more neutral or good alignments depending on the context of your story. And some good examples of these are the Beholder, which is a giant floating head with an eye and different tentacles with eyes on them, and the Mind Flayer, which is more of a tentacle-faced person that reads mind and has some very strong psychic powers. Beasts are another type of creature. These are more nature-based. They are more like the mundane, normal animals that we will see in the world. So such things as direwolves and dinosaurs are examples of beasts that you might find in Dungeons and Dragons. One thing that differentiates beasts from other types of creatures is that they are generally unintelligent creatures. They don't have a spoken language, and the alignment can be pretty neutral. They can react to the situation as it comes, so context is everything when it comes to alignments of beasts. Celestials are a type of creature that is not necessarily from the material world. They tend to come from an upper plane, or a heaven you could call it. They serve the gods. They tend to be angels, or unicorns, or Pegasus. They are a very special type of creature that is almost always good aligned, but sometimes, for the sake of story, something like an angel could be fallen and be of a more chaotic or evil alignment if it works for your story. Constructs are creatures that are not created but are made, as in constructed. That's where the name comes from. Their intelligence can range from a pre-programmed single-purpose type construct all the way up to an AI sentient kind of being that is very self-aware. It really depends on what the creator of that construct did to them, and they come in many different shapes and sizes and forms, and alignments can be anything from good to neutral depending on their creator. Most often you'll see constructs are things like golems and animated armors. They don't really have a soul, they aren't a living being, but they are made and seem like they're alive. The dragon category of creature has two main types. There's the classic fantasy dragon that we all know from storybooks. That we love these things, they're awesome. They are extremely intelligent creatures, and they are also extremely magical. So this category of dragon is very powerful and an interesting thing to encounter, and can have a variety of different encounters with them. Also, they come in many different colors, and in Dungeons and Dragons, these colors are separated as chromatic and metallic. The chromatic dragons come in more mundane named colors, red, green, blue, and are generally evil-aligned dragons. The metallic dragons come in colors that are named after metals: gold, silver, bronze, brass. These dragons are generally good-aligned creatures. But like everything, this can all depend on the needs of your story. The other type of dragon that exists are the more dumb, less intelligent creatures such as wyverns and drakes that are more bestial in nature, but they still fall in the dragon category. Elementals are creatures that have a connection to the elemental planes of the Dungeons and Dragons world. They usually have some connections with one of the elements of the world: earth, fire, wind, water, but not heart, because that's just dumb. And they also come in a variety of alignments from good to evil depending on the context and what they might be doing and what their life purpose might be. And this includes creatures that are made from the elements themselves, which are usually called just elementals, such as fire elemental or earth elemental, and other creatures that have strong connections to those elements, such as Oozes, gargoyles, and dust methods. The Fae is a type of magical creature that has a very strong connection with nature, and they usually come from a plane of existence called the Fae Wild. They are creatures such as satyrs or fairies or pixies, and even hags, which are more of an evil-aligned Fae. The Fiends are creatures from the lower planes of existence, or the Hells, you could say. They are almost always evil aligned. It says in the book that it's extremely rare to find an evil celestial, but it's even more rare to find a good aligned fiend. They're the things such as demons and devils, and they are the servants of the evil deities that exist in the Dungeons and Dragons worlds. These kind of creatures include, as I said, demons, imps, and hellhound. Giants are a classification of creature that look humanoid but are much, much larger. These can include the actual giants, such as hill giants and storm giants, and other types of creatures that are more varied or mutated, such as ettins or cyclops, or even trolls can be considered giants in Dungeons and Dragons. Humanoids are the main type of creature in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. They are all of the player classes that you can find are humanoid creatures. You're talking humans, elves, dwarves, halflings, gnomes, all of those are humanoid creatures, but there are others that are more monstrous types, such as orcs, goblins, hobgoblins, bugbears. Those kind of creatures are humanoids, but they are also more monstrous creatures. The next category, monstrosity, is the reason I tried to avoid saying monsters in this video thus far, and that's because these are the true monstrous creatures that live in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. They are the stuff of nightmares. They don't fit in any of the other classes, but they are usually large and mean and evil, and they want to kill you. Some common creatures that fit in this monstrosity category are the Yeti, the Basilisk, and the superpowered Tarrasque. The Ooze category of creature are creatures that don't really have a physical body. They do have a body, but it doesn't have an actual shape, I guess you could say. They're more gelatinous. They tend to live underground or in caves, not on the surface, and they tend to eat things such as carcasses, leftover scraps from other battles, and adventurers if they can get their hands on them. Some common oozes might be the gelatinous cube, is a very common one that is a well-known one, but there's also one called the black pudding, which sounds delicious, but I can guarantee it is not. Plants are a type of creature that is pretty self-explanatory. They're just creatures that are made out of plants, or vegetation, you could say. They're things like the shambling mound and the treant. They are a plant that has some sentience and will probably kill you if they get on their bad side. And the last class of creature are the undead. I mentioned this at the beginning with the turn undead ability. These are things that were once alive but then died, but then were brought back to life through some sort of evil curse or necromancy or some type of magic. The most well-known undead creatures are things like zombies, vampires, and liches. So, now that I went over all those different categories of monsters, I want to know what one sounds more fun to you to throw at your players. Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon that's right next to it so you get notified when I upload new videos every day. And of course, Game Masters, I've been Richard Quiner. Thank you for watching.